All right, good evening to you all. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. I hope you all enjoyed yourself. You had a good rest. For those that go to church, I hope you were blessed by the word. So, what we want to have a look at today is we want to look at our microeconomics. So, I'm hoping all of you managed to go through the video on Tuesday if you did not attend, but if you did not manage to go through, maybe I will just, summarize. So my name is James, right? James Gerard Nube. I am a private tutor. I want that to be very clear. I am not a Mancosa lecturer. I am a private tutor who teaches a lot of different subjects, and I help students with their, academics, just to make sure that at the end of the day, you pass, you do well in your assignments. I help you to prepare for the exams and etc. So last week on Tuesday, we had a meeting where I was introducing, highlighting to you guys the important things that you need to understand. And I said last week that there's something called formative assessment one, formative assessment number two, and I said that these are your assignments. And I highlighted that during the lectures that I'm going to be conducting with you, I'm going to be helping you to make sure that you score very well in these assignments. And then I highlighted that there's something called an online summative assessment that is an exam, and we are going to go through past exam papers to help you prepare for that exam. And then I also highlighted that for those of you that don't like group classes, that want a much more one-on-one type of service, you can give me a call and we can see if we can accommodate you and make certain arrangements. Right. And then I shared a timetable with you guys. So we have two type of students in this class. We have students that are doing advanced diploma in business management, and then students that are doing first year. Both of you guys do microeconomics, which is the lecture that we are doing today. And that is why we are combining you. So if you are doing advanced diploma in business management, take note that today, which is Sunday, and every Sunday afterwards at 8 p.m., we have microeconomics. On Monday, we have got advanced management at 8 p.m. On Tuesday, we've got business finance at 8 p.m. On Thursdays, we've got understanding marketing on 8 p.m. starting this week. So make sure that you attend all of these classes. I'll be sending the links to the groups. For the guys that are doing first year, so these are the guys that are doing a Bachelor of Business Administration, BBA, Bachelor of Public Administration, your BCom IT, BCom Financial Management, BCom Accounting, and etc. Right. We are going to be meeting Sundays for microeconomics at 8 p.m. Mondays, introduction to business management at 7 p.m. Tuesdays, fundamentals of programming. This is for the guys that are doing IT. These are the ones that do fundamentals of programming at 8 p.m. Tuesdays, again, for the guys that are doing introduction to project management, we are going to be doing at 8 p.m. And then Thursdays, we are going to be doing end user computing and digital transformation, and then analytical techniques, right? So these are done by people that are doing different degrees. That's why they're at the same time. There are people that are doing different degrees. So it's not clashing. You are just doing different degrees. And then on Saturdays, we have got business maths, and then I think introduction to financial management, it should be on Sunday at 5 p.m. But for the guys that are doing introduction to financial management, I highlighted this already. We are going to have to agree on a specific date where we can meet the date and time. This one is just there for the sake of being there, but we are going to change the date for introduction to financial management. So these are the modules that we'll be covering through the semester in terms of lessons. If your module is not there and you need assistance with that specific module, send me a WhatsApp message, give me a call tomorrow in the morning, and then we can arrange. The price is 800 Rand for each module. Installments over 4 or 3 months is allowed, right? So that's what we talked about on Tuesday. So now I want to go back into the serious matter, microeconomics, the reason why we are here today, right? So we are going to go through our unit number 1 and part of unit number 2 of microeconomics, just to introduce what microeconomics is all about. I already did a little bit of an introduction on Tuesday. I'll just repeat myself a little bit for the sake of those that did not attend on Tuesday. Right? So we say that when we are studying economics, right, We are studying people. So economics is essentially what is called a social science. A social science is just studying people, right? So economics is the study of people, is the study of how people make decisions. And we said last week, the reason why people make decisions is because of something called scarcity, right? So when I say scarcity, I am saying that resources are limited. For example, there is a limited amount of land in South Africa. And that is why there's an argument about the whole issue of land expropriation and etc. Because land is limited. If land was not limited, there would be no argument. Everyone would just get a piece of land and then everyone would be happy. But because land is limited, we now have arguments in terms of who should own the land and what not, right? So because land is limited, land is a resource. Right. So because of scarcity or the limitation of the resources that we have to make choices of how do we use the resources that we have? How do we distribute the resources that we have? How do we control the ownership of the resources that we have? Because they are limited in nature. Think of it in terms of your salary. You get a salary, maybe you're getting 20,000 Rand. It's not enough with 20,000 Rand for you to buy a house in Durban, a Ford Ranger, for you to go on to Mauritius on public holidays, right? It's not enough with that 20,000. You need more than that. So that 20,000 is your limitation. It represents the scarcity that you have within your life. So because of that limitation, you now have to make a choice. Should I use taxis? Should I use Uber? Or should I buy a car? Because you cannot do all of the things. Right? Should we plant tobacco, or should we plant cabbages, or should we build a factory for clothes, right, on a particular piece of land? It's a choice that we have to make. And whenever we make choices, right, we are faced with what we call unlimited wants or unlimited alternative uses. What do I mean by that? I'm saying the things that you can use your resources for are unlimited. If I tell you right now, I'm going to give you 3 hectares of land, what can you use that for? There is an unlimited number of things that you can use the land for, although you have to choose between that unlimited number of things, right? You can say, I will sell the land and I'll get money and I'll do this. I'll plant tomatoes on the land. I'll plant cabbages on the land. I'll build a factory on the land. I'll build a road on the, you see, there is so many different things that you can do with the land. Right. But you have to choose, because all of those things cannot be done on the same piece of land. Right. So human beings have to make a choice. Right. They have to make a choice because there's scarcity or because there's limitation of resources, and because they have unlimited wants or unlimited alternative uses. And when they make these choices, right, there's going to be a trade-off or there's going to be a cost. And economics is about that. It's the study of the economic problem. It's the study of how human beings make choices given unlimited wants and limited resources that they have, right? So that's us as human beings, right? So that's the definition of economics. And then on Tuesday, we highlighted that there are different branches of economics. There's macroeconomics and microeconomics. Macroeconomics with an A represents economics that focuses on the economy as a whole, on broader issues of the economy. So when I talk about the 30% unemployment rate in South Africa, or the 50% youth unemployment rate, I am talking about macroeconomics. When I say that the general price level or the inflation rate of South Africa is 6.5%, or the South African Reserve Bank has got a target inflation rate of 3.5%, then I am talking about macroeconomics. When I talk about the trade imbalance between the USA and the South African economy, I am talking about macroeconomics. These are broader economic issues that affect everyone within the context of South Africa, right? Then microeconomics with an I. This is now specific type of economics, which is what you will be studying this semester. Specific type of economics, I'm looking at one individual. I'm looking at one business. I'm looking at one family. I'm looking at one sector of the economy, and the decisions that are made within that sector as they build up to the economic theory that we face on a day-to-day basis, right? So that's one way of differentiating economics. And then we say that there is positive economics and normative economics. Positive economics is about the facts of economics. We are looking at the cause and effect, the relationships of economics. So, for example, if I increase the price of a product, what is going to happen to the demand? Are people going to buy more or are people going to buy less? That's positive economics. I'm looking at facts, right? The current unemployment rate of South Africa is 33%. I can go online, go to the government, and I can prove that. So that is a fact. The inflation rate of South Africa is so and so and so. That is a fact that I can prove. So that is positive economics. Then normative economics. This is a judgment that I am passing as an individual. I believe that the government of South Africa should pay us 1,000 Rand per person so that we all get some money that we can use every month. That's a normative economics. That's a judgment, right? It's my opinion of what I think ought to be done. If you go to someone different, they will think 350. Someone different will think 10,000 Rand per person. Those are value judgments. Those are recommendations of policy. What we believe ought to be within a particular set of an economy. So there are exam questions that you're going to get where the lecturer will give you a statement and ask you, does this fall under micro or under macro? Does this fall under positive or under normative economics? So that's something that you need to be able to do. So there's a table in your study guide, this table over here. I recommend you to go through this table. It will help you a lot in terms of understanding a little bit more about microeconomics versus macroeconomics. So take that as a homework and go through this table. It will just give you examples that can help you to understand more. Right. So now I want to give you what we call the key terms of economics. So when we're talking about unit one, right? So I might not follow your study guide exactly. Take note. I might not follow exactly what is in your study guide, but okay, it seems I've got a power outage this side. All right, I'm just going to remove my video. All right, sorry for that. I'm just going to remove my video. We've got a power outage this side. So I'll try to be as fast as possible in case my network starts to become a problem. All right. So when we are introducing economics, this is your chapter number 1 of the textbook. There are key terms that you need to understand. So that's why I'm saying that I might not follow exactly what is in your study guide because I'm also looking at your textbook. So there are some key terms that you need to understand as an economic student that are going to help you get more in terms of what you'll be learning. So number 1 is the word unlimited ones. What do we mean when we say unlimited wants in economics? So when we say something is a want, it's a desire, right? So for example, if you look at me as James, I can tell you that, look, guys, I want a Ferrari, or I want a Lamborghini, or I want a Lexus. I want a house by the beachfront in Durban. I want to go on holidays to Bali every other month. I want a lot of money in my account. So that's a desire. It has no limitation. So that is what a want is. So wants are unlimited by their very nature because as a human being, you are allowed to dream. So wants are unlimited. But there's also something called a need in economics. A need is a necessity. So for example, food is a need. I need food for me to survive. If I do not get food, I will die. I need food. But if I say I want a burger, it does not mean if I don't get a burger, I will die. No, I can still eat pap, right? So a want is unlimited in nature. A want is unlimited in nature, but a need is a necessity, right? It's something that if I do not get, it's going to be a problem. So food is a need. Shelter is a what? It's a need. Health is a need, right? And then there's something that we call demand. Demand, we're actually going to spend probably 3 or 4 weeks talking about demand, right? Demand is where we are saying that someone wants something and they have money to buy it. So that's what we call demand in economics. If you want something and you have the ability to buy it, you have the cash, you've got the rands to buy it, that is what we call demand. So there are some questions that you get in the exam that will try to ask you to differentiate between a want, a need, and demand. Right? But at the end of the day, what is key or what is important is understanding what unlimited wants are. Because unlimited wants is the economic problem. That's where the economic problem comes from unlimited wants. Then scarcity. When we say something is scarce, we are saying that it is difficult to find it, right? We are saying that it is not enough, it is limited, right? In terms of its availability, right? It is limited in terms of its availability. So for example, I was giving you an example of land and saying land is scarce, land is limited within the nation. Labor, for example, there are 65 million South Africans. And out of those 65 million South Africans, maybe only 30 million or maybe 40 million can be employed. The rest are young people and above, let's say 70, they may not be able to go to work. So it means that within the nation, we probably have only a labor force of 30 million. Yes, we have unemployment, but it means that the labor that we have is limited. If you go to nations such as Canada, for example, you can see that they've got an immigration policy that is aggressive. They're trying to get more people into Canada. Why do you think that is? They are saying that we have limited labor within our country. So we are going to allow people that want to migrate to Canada to come into Canada so that they can come and work here. Why? Because they have limited resource of labor as a what? As a nation, right? So again, capital, the capital that we use to start a business and all of those sort of things, it's limited in its very nature, right? The water that we drink, it's limited. That's why sometimes it's closed. It's limited in the electricity, the same electricity that we're having a problem with right now. It's limited in its very nature. So that's what scarcity is. Scarcity is about resources not being enough within an economy. Right. So when you combine unlimited ones and scarcity, right? Remember, scarcity is the resources, unlimited ones is your desires. If you combine these two things, you have to make a choice, right? So, like I was saying, if you have a piece of land, you have to make a choice what to do with the piece of land. You've got a lump sum of money, you have to make a decision what to do with the lump sum of money that you have. Right. So because of unlimited ones and scarcity, we have to make a choice. And whenever we make a choice, there are alternatives that we can no longer consume. So if I was to give you 300 Rand right now, and then with the 300 Rand, you can go for a movie, right? With the 300 Rand, you can buy a textbook for economics so that you can study economics. With the 300 Rand, you can buy maybe a Roman's pizza, right? So you can do three things. Go to a movie, you can buy a textbook and you can get Roman's pizza. Let's say that you're not really interested in going for a movie. Although it's a choice, but you're not really interested. You're really hungry. You want Roman's pizza. But also you really want the economics textbook. So if you choose to buy Roman's pizza, it means the opportunity cost or the alternative forgone is going to be your what? Is going to be your textbook, right? Because you could have bought a textbook, but instead you chose to eat the Roman's pizza. So the next best alternative forgone when you made the choice is the textbook, right? The movie is not the next best out. It is an alternative, but it was not the best or it was not the next because you were not really interested in the movie. You were more interested in the textbook. Right? So opportunity cost refers to the alternative that you forgo whenever you make a choice. Whatever you have to forgo, whatever you have to release, whatever you no longer enjoy when you're making a choice is your opportunity cost. But the trick part is it has to be there. I'm emphasizing this because it is important. It has to be the next best alternative forgone. It has to be the next best alternative forgone. So let's go through an example so that you understand this concept here. Just give me a second. Right. Just want to go through an example with you guys. This is a typical exam question that you get in the exam. So I want to make sure that you get it. All right, I'm just loading something here. All right, so, right. So let's assume, right, you have what? You have got ARA 2000 Rand, right? So with the ARA 2000 Rand, your choices are as follows, right? You can either, right, pay for a suit, right? You need some clothes. You can pay for a suit, right? And then alternatively, other than the suit, you can buy some textbooks for your studies, right? Then other than the textbooks, you can go on holiday, weekend getaway, right? You can go on holiday for a weekend getaway, right? And then finally, you can what? What? 2000 Rand. You can, buy a notepad, right? Like an electronic notepad, right? For schoolwork, right? So if you are not really keen on the holiday issue because you want to study, so you're not really keen on going on holiday because you want to study. So it's not really something that is important to you, right? Then the notepad, yeah, it's nice to have a notepad, but you think it's not that important. It's an option, but you don't think it's important. So you really want the textbooks, but there is a wedding next week and you end up buying the suit. What is the opportunity cost of you buying the suit? What is the opportunity cost of you buying the suit? I'll repeat. You've got four options: buy suit, buy textbooks, go on holiday, buy a notepad, right? An electronic notepad, right? You're not really keen on going on holiday because it's school time. You want to read for school things. The notepad looks nice, but you think it's too expensive. 2000 for a notepad, it's too expensive, this thing. So you're shaky on that one. But you really want the textbooks. But because of the wedding next week, you go and buy the suit. So what becomes your opportunity cost? Remember, the definition of opportunity cost is the next best alternative forgone. So that's the opportunity cost. So I see a lot of you texting in there saying that it's textbook, it's textbook, it's textbook. Yes, that is very correct. The next best alternative forgone is the textbook. Right. Now let's do a different example. Now this one is gonna bite you now. Let's do a different example, which is a little bit more difficult. All right. So on this example, we're gonna meet Tolani, right? Tolani is a footballer, right? We're gonna meet, right? Right? Tolani is a footballer, right? Yeah, sorry. How can I make this bigger? Okay. We're gonna meet Tolani there, footballer over there. All right. So this footballer Tolani, so I'm just trying to see what I can. All right, there it is. It's too big. Way too big. So this footballer called Tolani, right? This is what happens, right? He is playing football, right? And then he makes a mistake. He does what we call a foul in football. He injures another player. And because he has injured another player, right, he's given a red card, right? He receives a red card, right? Then from that red card, right, he can no longer attend the next two matches. Can not attend the next two matches, right? Cannot attend the next two matches, right? So because he cannot attend the next two matches, then you are given extra information. You are told that Tolani, for every match that he attends, he gets what? 5,000 Rand bonus from the club. Whenever he goes to a match, he gets 5,000 Rand bonus. And then whenever he goes for a match, right, he has got an appearance fee, maybe from the sponsor, 1,000 Rand. But also Polani, whenever he attends a match, he has to pay his insurance company in case he gets injured. And he pays the insurance company an attendance fee for each match of 2,000 Rand. And then the lecturer says, what is the opportunity cost of Krolani getting the red card? There are questions that come like that. What is the opportunity cost for Krolani getting a red card? So what is he saying? Say, when Krolani got the red card, what did he forgo? When he got that red card, what did Krolani forgo? Right. So it is very interesting now, this type of question, when you see it in the exam situation. How do you solve for this question? So what you then do is, number one, remember, it's two matches that he can no longer attend. So we are saying that Kolani was supposed to get 5,000 Rand, but is no longer getting 5,000 Rand multiplied by 2, which is 10,000 Rand. He has forgone 10,000 Rand that he could have received if he had attended the matches. Then number two, we know that Kolani was supposed to receive an appearance fee of 1,000 Rand for each what? For each match that he appears. So that's going to be another what? That's going to be another 2,000 Rand that he has what? That he has forgone. Then we will also notice that he was supposed to pay 2,000 Rand for insurance for each match that he plays. So this is money that he has saved. This is money that he has what? He has saved, which is 2,000 multiplied by what? Multiplied by 2, which is 4,000 Rand. So the net effect of the decision, the opportunity cost of his decision is going to be the 10,000 Rand that he lost, plus the extra 2,000 Rand that he lost, minus the 4,000 Rand that he lost, which is going to give you a total of 8,000 Rand. So that becomes the what? That becomes what Polani at the end of the day, what are his opportunity cost, right? So there are some questions that you are going to get on opportunity cost that will need you to do calculations. There are some opportunity costs, some questions on opportunity cost that are going to need you to do what? That are going to need you to do
calculations.
Yes. Okay, just give me a second here. I'm trying to go back to my, I'll explain, don't worry. I'm just trying to go back to my slides here. Economics.
James, just a question. So the opportunity cost, will the questions, how can I say now? As opportunity costs fall in all three items that you mentioned, the needs, the demand, and the want. Will there be questions of them or one of them that ask for example on opportunity cost?
It won't come out like that. I get what you're trying to ask, but
For example, the example that you gave now. So
okay, I think it got cut off. So the questions
no, continue. I'm listening.
Okay, the questions that you get on opportunity cost.
So it all comes down to what the example. It all comes down to the example that they ask us.
Yes. So there are two types of questions that you're going to get on opportunity cost. Question number one is the first one, which is straightforward. You are told that the person has got these 4 choices or these 5 choices. They make this choice, this one they don't like, this one they don't like, they really like this. What is the opportunity cost? Very straightforward question on opportunity cost. You can just select this is the opportunity cost. The second type of question on opportunity cost is the one with the calculation, where you are given that this person was supposed to do this, it was going to be this amount in terms of the expenses, and then they ended up making this choice. So what becomes the opportunity cost? Where you now need to add and to subtract. I'll explain the adding and the subtracting, but where you need to add and to subtract for you to arrive at the opportunity cost. So here is the trick. When you make a decision, right, whenever you make a decision, the alternative that you have forgone, it had certain incomes that were coming in, and it had certain expenses that you were supposed to what? That you were supposed to experience. The incomes that are coming in are your opportunity cost minus the expenses that were related to those incomes. Right. So, for example, if we go to the footballer, the opportunity cost of the footballer is the income that you would have earned in playing those games, in appearing in those games, minus the expenses that were related to him play in those games. Because the moment he played in those games, he had to pay insurance. So because he's not playing in the insurance, he no longer has to have that insurance fee. So we cannot say the opportunity cost is 12,000, which is 10,000 plus 2,000. No, because he is no longer going to pay insurance. So the insurance will reduce the opportunity cost. So it's the incomes that the person was supposed to get less the expenses that are related to the choice that that person has made. We are going to do a lecture where we are going to go through past exam papers together on this particular topic, and we are going to see more examples so that you learn how to answer those types of questions. Right? So let's move on to the next one. Economic goods and resources. Remember, I'm still just going through the key terms in economics, right? So there's something that we call an economic good. So when we say an economic good, usually we don't use the word economic good. We just say a good in economics, just goods, right? The goods that are being produced by this company, this individual or this firm is going to produce these goods, but it means economic goods. An economic good simply means something that is either a good or something that is a service that someone needs to pay for them to be able to consume it. So if you have to pay for something, it's an economic good, right? But there are certain things that you don't pay for. So these are called free goods, something that you don't pay. For example, the oxygen that you breathe right now, you don't pay for it. So that is a free good. Although economics, we don't focus our studies on free goods. We focus our studies on economic goods. However, for the guys that are doing Bachelor of Public Administration, in your second year, you're going to do what is called public sector economics. Public sector economics focuses on what are called public goods. So a public good is an economic good that is paid for by the government or that is paid for through your taxes. So for example, the police, right, in SAPS in South Africa. So SAPS is a public good, right? You enjoy the service, they protect you, right? You enjoy the services of SAPS. You don't go and directly pay to SAPS. I know corruption and whatnot. Let's not talk about that. You don't go and pay SAPS directly and say, this is 20,000 Rand, please protect me this month. You don't do that. But because you pay your taxes, SAPS will protect the whole country. Or maybe the defense of South Africa, they will SANDF. They will protect the whole country because you pay your taxes. So that's a public good. Or for example, electricity on the street, right? For you to use the street at your home, there is electricity, there is a street light. You just use the street light, but you pay for them through rates and taxes. You don't directly pay for them. So that's a public good. So that's another type of good that you can talk about in economics, right? Then there are what we call consumer goods. Consumer goods, these are goods that we consume for current consumption. So for example, if I buy Roman's pizza, that's a consumer good. If I buy a laptop and I want to use to watch movies, that's a consumer good. If I buy a car that I want to drive around on holiday, that's a consumer good. if I buy a refrigerator to put my food in there, that's a consumer good. Then capital goods. Capital goods are goods that you use in the production of something else. So if I buy a delivery vehicle for use in my business, that's a capital good. If I buy a refrigerator to use in spa as a business, that's a capital good. If I buy laptops for my employees at the workplace so that they can use it to generate more revenue, that is a capital good. Right. Then resources. Let's talk about resources. All right. So as you are producing, right? So a business, right? So in an economy, there is what we call production. So production, we are trying to produce something, right? So for example, we want clothes, right? So someone is to produce the clothes that we wear. We want phones. Someone is to produce the phones. We want food, we want pizza, we want burgers. Someone is to produce the burgers, right? That we eat. Right? So that's production. So for you to be able to produce, there are resources, right? For you to be able to produce, there are resources that are required. So there are 4 key resources. Some textbooks will say 5, but there are 4 key resources that we use in economics, right? The first resource is called land, or in other textbooks, it's written natural resources. Other textbooks will say land, other textbooks will say natural resources. It doesn't matter, it's the same thing, right? So when we are talking about land or natural resources, we are talking about the physical land, the one that we use for agriculture, the one that we use to build roads, the one that we put our factories on, number one. Or number 2, we are talking about natural resources such as the trees, the plants, the livestock, wind, water. Water itself is part of land, right? You know, the lakes, the seas, the rivers, and whatnot. The sun, right? Renewable energy, it's part of land. So land is a natural resource that helps us in economics, right? And it's called a primary factor of production, which means it's a very important factor of production. We cannot produce without it. Right. Then another primary factor of production is called labor. Right. So again, for you to produce a laptop, for you to produce food, for you to produce clothes, you're going to need someone to work at the company. So that's labor. So labor can be 2 things. Labor can be physical labor, people that do physical jobs, people that lift things up, people that, plumbers, electricians, and all of those sort of things. That's physical labor. Then labor can be intellectual. Right, it can be your thought process. Your architects, right? Your lawyers, right? So that's intellectual labor. All of those are also primary factors of production, which means they're important. So land and labor, or natural resources and labor, are the primary factors of production used for us to produce anything, right? Then there are what we call secondary factors of production. Secondary factors of production, we have what we call capital. Now, capital is difficult to explain because you are going to have a misconception about what capital is. There is what we call economic capital, and there's what we call financial capital. In economics, we talk about economic, not financial capital. So let me explain financial capital first. Financial capital is money, the rands that you have in your bank account. That's financial capital. That's not what we are talking about when we are talking about economics. Economics, we talk about economic capital in the production process. Economic capital are physical resources that you use to manufacture other products. So for example, for me as James, right, I have a business. The product that I sell is tutorials. For me to be able to provide you guys with tutorials, I need a laptop. So a laptop is economic capital to me, right? If you go to Coca-Cola, they produce drinks, right? They produce Minute Maid, they produce Fanta, and all of those things. For them to be able to produce all of those things, what do they need? They need a plant, they need machinery, they need delivery vehicles. That is economic capital to Coca-Cola, right? If you go to a farmer gives you wheat, it gives you maize meal, right? What does he need? He needs a tractor, right? He needs a harvester. The tractor or the harvester is the economic capital. Do not mistake economic capital and financial capital. When we are dealing with the factors of production, we are talking about economic capital. If the lecturer gives you an exam and he says, right, there are 4 factors of production. There is land, labor, entrepreneurship and money. It's wrong. Money is not a factor of production because money is financial capital. Economic capital has to be physical. Or maybe it's a service, but economic capital is economic capital. It is not financial capital. It is not the money that is in your account. Take note of that. So that's a secondary factor of production. Then another factor of production is entrepreneurial skills. Entrepreneurial skills, we are talking about the business owner, the person who takes land, who takes capital, who takes labor, and combines it together and takes a risk for them to create the business that is going to produce. So that's another factor of production. So this is why you see, if you have ever seen how governments are interested in investing in entrepreneurs. We want to train entrepreneurs. Young people are going to be entrepreneurs in South Africa. We want to train women entrepreneurs. The reason why they want that is because they are trying to grow this factor of production. Right? Because if you have land, if you have labor and capital, but if you don't have entrepreneurs, nothing will happen in your economy. Nothing will happen in your economy. So you need the land, you need the labor, you need the economic capital, but you also need the entrepreneurs to be there. If there are no entrepreneurs, your economy will not succeed. So those are your factors of production. Right? So someone says here, I'm just looking at the questions. Right? Someone says, what is the difference between a private good and a consumer good, or it is the same thing? Yeah, it's more or less the same thing, a private good and a consumer good. But when we're saying a private good, most likely we're looking at economic goods. Economic goods are what we call private good, because public goods are goods that you can all consume without necessarily paying for them directly. Whereas private goods, you need to pay for you to consume a private good. So a private good can actually be capital or it can be consumer, right? It can be capital or it can be consumer, because private is just a difference with public goods. Then someone says, in terms of labor being a primary factor of production, what about if it's a capital intensive industry? Can we still consider it as a primary factor of production? Yes. Labor is a primary factor of production. Land is a primary factor. Another way of looking at it, think of it this way. Secondary factors of production are the factors of production that we use to convert the primary factors of production into the final product at the end of the day. That's another way of looking at it. But it's a standard definition. Land and labor are primary factors of production. Capital and entrepreneurial skills are secondary factors of production. Right. Wonderful. So essentially, I am done with the terms, like the normal terms that you need to understand in economics. So I'm going to introduce the last aspect for today's lecture, which is the economic problem. Why do we study economics? Why am I bothering you with these things? What is the benefit of us studying economics? Right. So from the definition that we studied of economics, there's already a problem, remember. We said that they are unlimited ones. James wants a Ferrari, a Range Rover. James wants land. James wants a house in Durban. James wants holidays. James wants money. James wants the things that James wants are too many. But James only has got a limited salary. James is getting 20,000 Rand a month, and that's it. Right. So that's a problem in itself. So that problem is not only at the level of James, or at the level of a company, or at the level of a province, or of a family. It's at the level of the economy. The economy in South Africa itself, it has a problem. They have got limited land, they have got limited amount of labor, they've got limited amount of capital, and they have to make a decision of how to use the limited resources that they have. So the economic problem is basically, how do we solve scarcity, right? How do we make choices in an economy where there is limited resources, where there is budgetary constraints, when we have unlimited wants as an economy? How do we efficiently allocate the resources that we have between all of the different needs, all of the different desires that we have within an economy? So that becomes our economic problem. that becomes our economic problem, right? Someone talks about the fifth factor of production. I'll come back to that one. Sorry, I forgot about that one. I'll come back to that one, right? So that's our economic problem, right? So the economic problem is defined in terms of three questions. These are called the three economic questions, right? So the three questions is what should we produce, right? How to produce and for whom to produce, right? So when I say what should we produce, I am asking the question that, let's say you are a farmer, right? You can do tomatoes, you can do cabbages, you can do lettuce, you can do potatoes, right? There are so many options that you can do. So which one are you going to choose? Are you going to say, in my farm, we're doing tomatoes? Or in my farm, I'm going to do animal husbandry. I'm going to have cattle. Or I'm going to do goats in my farm. What are you going to choose? So that's a problem there that a farmer is to face on a year-to-year basis. So what should be produced in an economy? Right. So you're think about the whole economy of South Africa. They have to decide as the government where to focus their energies on. Do they want a country to focus on, manufacturing cars, or maybe they want to focus on medicine, manufacturing medicine, or agricultural products, right, or clothes, right? So you will notice that in different economies, this is where you now see why we import things. So you will notice that we import a lot of our phones because we are not producing phones in South Africa. We made a decision some time ago that we are not going to produce phones. They are being produced in Taiwan or in Vietnam because they decided they want to produce phones. We decided we want to produce fruits and veggies, and we're exporting fruit and veggies. We decided we want to produce cars, and we're exporting cars. But we are not producing computers. We are importing them from the US because the US decided they want to produce computers. Right? So it's a decision that has to be made. What to produce within an economy. Right. So that's question number one. Right. Then question number two is how to produce. If you decide as a farmer that I want to produce tomatoes, right? How am I going to produce the tomatoes? Am I going to employ 100 workers at my farmer and then have one tractor and one combine harvester? Or I'm going to employ 5 people at my farm and have 5 tractors and 5 combine harvesters. That's a choice that you can make as a business, right? So you are now looking. Remember, there's someone who talked in the comments there about capital intensive. So a business is to choose: are we a labor intensive organization or are we a capital intensive organization? They are choosing how to mix the resources that they have. If you go to Israel right now, you will notice that their agriculture, there is a certain level of technology that they put in their agriculture, which we may not be putting here in South Africa. So that's a decision of how to produce. So when you're making the decision of how to produce, you're looking at how do you mix and match? How do you allocate the resources that you have towards the production of whatever it is that you chose to produce? Then lastly, there is the question of for whom to produce. For whom to produce is you are looking at allocation of the products. Yes, we have produced 30,000 tons of tomatoes, but how do we distribute them? Do we say all South Africans on Monday go to Spar, you're going to get 5 kgs of tomatoes for free? Or we are going to ask Spar to sell the tomatoes and make a profit, right? Whoever wants the tomatoes buys them at Spar. Or we are going to have a delivery company deliver, everyone should get a tomato every day. How do we distribute to the consumer so that they can eat the tomatoes? So that's a decision that you have to make as an economy. And there are different ways you can decide, but that's a decision that you have to make as an economy at the end of the day. So that's the economic problem. So now I'm left with 2 things that I want to talk about. The first thing is I want to go back. There's a comment that I saw there, something that I had not mentioned. Remember, I said that there are 4 factors of production: land, economic capital, labor, and entrepreneurial skills. So there is a 5th factor of production, right, which is called technology. Some textbooks include it, some do not include it. The ones that do not include it consider it as part of economic capital, right? But the ones that want to put it as a 5th factor of production, that's still fine. So technology, you're just looking at the technology that is going to be used in the production process as a 5th factor of production. But most textbooks, they will put it under economic capital. But you can put it as a 5th factor of production. That's fine. Right. Then another thing also on factors of production, we are going to talk more about this in our lecture or let me leave it for now. We'll talk about it when we get to that lecture so that I don't confuse you. Let me leave that one for now. We'll talk about it when we get to that lecture. So we talked about the three economic problems, right? The three economic questions. Now, how are these questions solved? This is the last part for today, for the next 5 minutes. How are these questions solved in an economy? Now, there is a plethora of economies. Every economy is different, but they are trying to solve the economic problem. So the way they do that is they create what is called an economic system. An economic system is a way of doing business within a country. So there are systems that are called command economic systems. There are systems that are called market economic systems. There are systems that are called mixed economic systems. We in South Africa are in a mixed economic system. I'll explain that later. But for now, let's look at a command and a market economic system. A command system is difficult to find a command system, but this is basically socialism at its best. If you go to countries like Cuba, I'm not sure North Korea, but I think North Korea also, Cuba, North Korea, countries like that, right? They use a command system. But even China is no longer a command system, it's mixed, right? But it was once a command system. So a command system is a country which has what we call a central authority. A central authority makes decisions on behalf of everyone else. So for example, they will meet in January and they'll say, this year in this country, we are going to produce 50,000 tons of wheat. We are going to produce 20,000 vehicles. We are going to produce 1 million loaves of bread. Once we have produced this, we are going to distribute it as follows. People are going to get a loaf of bread delivered to their house every day. Everyone between the age of 22 and 23 will get a car this year, right? And then you see, if everything is on a command basis, it's being decided by an authority within the nation, and then everyone follows suit. So that's a command system. If you look at the Soviet Union that broke up in the 19-somethings, right? That was a command system. So they just decide that this is what we want to do, and they produce that and they distribute it. No one pays for anything. Socialism or communism at its best, right? That's a command system. Then on the other side, you've got a market system. A market system, there is no central authority. Everything is decided by market forces. If you want medication, you have to pay for medication. If you want to drive on the road, you have to pay for driving on that road. If you want street lights for your house, you have to pay for those street lights. So everything in a market system is made through market forces. So it is difficult for you to get what is called a pure market system because they are governments. In each and every country, there's a government which makes certain decisions. So some of the decisions that government makes will be opposite a market system. But a market system is one of the freest economies that you can get to. The best examples that are usually given, countries such as Australia, that's one example of a market system that you can find, right? Then a mixed system is a system where you find the market system in operation, but there is still a portion of centralized decision making that happens within that economy. There's still a government that comes in and says that the minimum wage is 15 rand. You cannot pay someone less than 15 rand. They are putting a little bit of a command in there. There's a government that comes and says, no, 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 no. You are Vodacom. You cannot go and buy Celsi. The company Celsi. Let them alone. So they are trying to manage the monopoly issues. They're trying to, so there is a little bit of a command system that is in place, but majority, there is a market system. So you find that most economies in the world, they are mixed systems. It's just that to what extent do they fall more towards the market system or do they fall more towards the command system at the end of the day, right? So there are some notes there that you can also go through. So this brings me to an end of my lecture for today. This is where I'm going to end my lecture for today. So in our next lecture, I will be talking about what is called the production possibility curve. For the guys that are doing first year, I think that is it's part of your units. But for the guys that are doing advanced diploma, you don't have this in your study guide, but you need to know about it. So because it's there in your textbook, and I've seen exam questions that you are asked about it. So we're going to talk about the production possibility curve. So the production possibility curve, it's just a graphical representation of everything that we learned today. Right? It's a graph that talks about scarcity, that talks about opportunity cost, that talks about choices that we make, that talks about efficiency and all of those sort of things. So that's what we're going to be talking about next. So the next microeconomics lesson will be on Sunday next week. The next microeconomics lesson will be on Sunday next week. But tomorrow, we'll be meeting to do, for the guys that are doing advanced diploma, we are doing advanced management at 8. And then for the guys that are doing first year, we are doing introduction to business management at 7 p.m. Right. So I will send the links to the groups just like I did today. Make sure that you get those links. Let's see if there are any questions before we dismiss each other. All right. Just give me a second. Let's see if there are any questions in the chat. If you have got a question, you can also unmute yourself and ask. You're free to do so. Now we are done with the lecture. All right, so let's see. Someone says, so for those who will be paying for the lessons, will you send us an online copy of the study guides on the modules you're going to do with us? Yes. So one of the things that we'll be doing is that as we are conducting the lectures, we'll be sending you guys the study guide. We'll be sending you guys the study guide. Sorry, not the study guide, the notes. You see those notes that I was sharing? I will be sending those notes to you guys when we are doing the lectures together. But even for these ones that I did today, it's not a problem. I will send them through so that you can use some. I'll just not send all my notes. I'll just send that portion only that we did today so that you can have something that you can use for reading in the what? In the meanwhile. Right, let's see if there's another question. Let's see. When is the next class? Like I said, tomorrow we are doing business management, but for economics, the next class will be Sunday next week. But tomorrow we are doing business management. Yes, this is recorded. We'll send you the recording in the group. Right. Let's say, how do we enroll and pay for these sessions? You can send me a WhatsApp message. My number, you saw it on screen there, 071 3000 or you can just check in the WhatsApp group. The person who's sending you the links, that's me, right? You can WhatsApp me and then I'll add you. I have a separate private group for the students that pay for these lessons. Like I said, the free lessons are this week and next week, right? Which means that starting around the 10th of March, I will only be dealing with the students that are interested in paying for this service. So we're doing free lessons just so that you also know us and you can also see if you like how we teach or if you don't like how we teach. So if you're interested in joining my sessions, you can just WhatsApp me. And remember, like I said, the sessions will also include the assignments that will help you with the solutions of how to do the assignments at the end of the day. But all is well. Let's meet each other tomorrow at 7 o'clock for the first year students and at 8 o'clock for the advanced diploma students. Hope you.
Sorry. Hi, James.
Hello.
Hi.
Yes.
I asked a question about the study guide. I'm not sure if you saw it. There was a bit of a break-off point with the internet. So at the beginning of today's lesson, you referred to a table that's on our study guides. I didn't quite follow on the actual study guide, so I'm wondering if we have different types of study guides
Okay,
or.
all right, it's fine. I'll send you the version that I have. It's an old version. They might have updated it. It's an old version. They
All
might
right.
have updated it, yeah. But I'll send you the one that I have so that in case if there are certain sections that are not in the current study guide, you can always go back to that one.
Great, thank you.
All right, sure. All right, guys. Good night. See you tomorrow.
Thank you, James.